All right, everybody, welcome to your Monday Night Raw review here on the WWE podcast. Tonight, we actually have a co-host here to discuss Monday Night Raw. Mary Grater joins the show to talk about Monday Night Raw, her thoughts on the releases, where WWE could be going, and much more. I mean, you see the length of the show. We talk nearly 2 hours long, so buckle up because here we go.
Welcome to the WWE podcast, your number one source for the latest in WWE news and straightforward analysis. Are you ready to get this thing going?
Give me a hell yeah! I said give me a hell yeah!
Then let's get this show started right now.
Welcome to your Monday Night Raw review here on the WWE podcast. And as mentioned, we do have Mary Grater here to give her thoughts and opinions on what the heck is going on in WWE right now with all of the, not just the hiring or the firings rather, and the just the crazy creative on Raw, but just where WWE's headed as a whole. I mean, where is the company headed over the next few months into the next few years? I mean, we didn't fantasy book out years, but just kind of high level stuff. You know, is WWE being sold? If it's sold, who's buying it? I mean, we talk about that at the end of the show. We don't open with it, so you'll get to hear that towards the end of the show. But we do cover Monday Night Raw and all of its faults. And I want to just say up front, I don't want people to think we hate wrestling. Okay, we get a lot of feedback sometimes that people talk about how we're too negative. It's all we do is complain about the product. Look, we keep things straight here on the show. We keep things very real, very honest. We do not sugarcoat. And if we don't like what we see, then we call WWE on it. And the creative on Raw has been, as most people feel, it's easy to jump on the bandwagon, but it's true. It's been abysmal outside of a few shining lights of RK Bro and Lashley and McIntyre. So we do completely bury WWE on a few storylines, particularly the final segment of Monday Night Raw that has been just completely destroyed already by many people on Twitter, with Alexa Bliss and her Hocus Pocus and her magic, with Shayna Baszler and the B-rated horror movie that they try to put together at the end with the camera angles that shouldn't have been there and the music overlay and the fact that they're destroying Shayna Baszler's character on top of it, and the focus being on, you know, freaking magic instead of wrestling. It's just, it's really just a complete embarrassment especially to end the show. I mean, so we definitely cover that. You're going to want to stay tuned and much more. But welcome to the show, guys. Thank you so much for choosing this show over many of your wrestling podcast options. We are here like 9 shows every week. We drop a show just about every day. And so I would invite you to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. And if you want to help out the show, give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It does help us out. Or if you really hate us and you want to write a negative review, you can do that too. I mean, whatever you want to do. I mean, if you really hate us, like, cool, whatever. That's what the review's for. But I'd encourage you to give a 5-star rating and review. Also, if you want an ad-free experience, patreon.com/WWE podcast for ad-free exclusive shows like Wrestling Nostalgia and the What If, which, by the way, Anthony DeMarco and I just dropped, a couple of days ago. And we did a What If Eddie Guerrero never passed away in 2005. It was a fascinating conversation with Anthony, and we'll be recording again this week, and this time it's focused around D-Generation X and if they never actually came together. So that is going to be a focal point of this week with the What If. You can join us over at Patreon on the Raw tier and higher to get that show. So I'd invite you to head on over there, along with get yourself up there now, because with Hell in a Cell coming up on June 20th, which is just a little less than 2 weeks away now, we have a private Discord server, a little VIP hangout area, I like to think of it as. And all the patrons of the show get access to this Discord server. It's just basically like a chat room. You can talk on your phone, and you can actually use voice, but most people just text into the chat. And we discuss what's going on live on the pay-per-view, including myself, of course. And it's a little VIP area, I think, and it's pretty cool. So that is available to you when you join Patreon, as well as shout-outs and a bunch of other stuff. So, okay, here comes Mary Grater and myself discussing Monday Night Raw and all of the fun extras. So, guys, as always, I'll be talking to you tomorrow. Those of you on Patreon, you'll be getting the Wrestling Nostalgia. Everyone else gets the mailbag, of course. That'll be coming to you tomorrow evening, if not early Thursday morning. It depends how many emails I get and how tired I am. I mean, I've literally fallen asleep on my microphone before, so it all depends. But that should be released to you on Wednesday night, if not early Thursday morning. So, okay, here comes Mary and myself. Everyone take care, and I'll talk to you next time. Well, it is time for your Monday Night Raw review, and typically, guys, I do this show solo by myself, but I had to bring on a co-host for this one because I have not heard her opinion yet, not only on Monday Night Raw, but also of the latest firings and where she thinks WWE is going. We'll get to that on the back end of the Raw review. But Mary, welcome back to the show. I hope everything's going well for you. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, Matt? I am doing well. I got a long week ahead of me. I'm graduating finally on Saturday. 20 years in the making. Woo! And yeah, I'm excited to talk about Raw and what's going on with the McManigans. But thank you for having me back.
Okay. Mary, let's get into Monday Night Raw. Of course, I know you want to vent your opinions about Vince and where WWE could be going, and I absolutely want to hear your thoughts because we really have not spoken about this off the air. I mean, we wanted to make sure we saved this for our recording. So we're going to jump into Raw first. And Monday Night Raw opened, and it ended, well, the match that started was the Viking Raiders ending up winning a tag team battle royal. The tag team championships actually took center stage opening Raw, which was a very different concept, although I'm not against it. It feels like they never care about the tag team championship, and it's often just a forgotten championship. And hell, we had AJ and Omos take 4 weeks off after WrestleMania because they had no plans for them after they won the belts. But the Viking Raiders ended up winning the tag team battle royal here over a heavily favored, at least in my eyes, RK Bro. I think they were absolutely the heavy favorite here. We had Lince Dorado as part of the one half of the Lucha House Party. The Miz was injured at ringside with his wheelchair, and we had Morrison representing their tag team in this. And, of course, the New Day, perennial, just constant contenders for the championship. And the Viking Raiders end up winning this thing. So were you surprised at this?
I was a little surprised, but it's the right move. It's funny that you were talking about tag team championships not being as elevated as they used to be, because I just finished watching the Bret Hart documentary on A&E, and they were, doing the whole Hart Foundation. I remember like them being champs forever, and that's how I was introduced to Bret Hart. So it did have a lot more prestige back then. I mean, those guys had the titles forever, and we just keep putting titles on two different people who we just throw together, or, an up-and-comer is now managing or ringside with a veteran like AJ and Amos. The titles need to get off of them because AJ Styles needs to be in the main event. I don't know how many more times I have to say that. Like, if it was just so he would have a tag team championship to get him, another title under his belt, so to speak, I think that was kind of awkward, but that's what I meant. Fine, because AJ deserves all the championships. But, if Omos is going to stay around, he's got to start being like that giant guy in the division. The titles need to go back onto a tag team, and the Viking Raiders are a very good tag team, and they were very successful in NXT, and they got stalled because Vince changed their name. What was their original name?
War Machine, right? Experience?
No, it was War Machine, wasn't it?
Well, I think, it might have been, yeah.
It was something that had war in it, and Vince couldn't have a tag team have the name War, and it's starting already, guys. You can hear the sarcasm in my voice. So they got derailed real quick, and then they were doing jokes with, the Street Profits, and I just don't understand when you have a team that's formidable who can move like that for that size, like why you would take the momentum away from them. So I was shocked because, you got Mike and Morrison and Miz doing stuff, and Lince Dorado. I don't care about the Lucha House Party. Sorry, I never have. The division needs to be built more back up on Raw. The New Day, I don't even know how much longer they're going to be a tag team because it seems like they're trying to get Kofi back into the main event. And maybe finally we'll get Xavier Woods on a solo run because that guy needs to be the Intercontinental Champion, in my opinion. But I don't know. I think it was a good move, but every time they do a good move, they take 4 steps back. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think this is guys, that's right. We should probably pay attention to the tag team division. Let's fulfill our once every 6 months, attention and focus on the tag titles, and we'll go back to forgetting about it for the next 5.5 months. It's very possible that this happens. But with Randy Orton now in the mix, in the hunt for the tag team championships, they may actually be more consistent with it, given that I think they've caught lightning in a bottle with RK Bro. Randy doesn't say a whole lot. He hasn't said a whole lot, and I think while they have on-screen chemistry, better than I think anybody expected them to, I would like a little bit more from Randy other than just taking the key from Matt Riddle's mouth, the imaginary key, which it's cute, but it's starting to now get a little bit repetitive. And anytime WWE finds something, they drive it into the ground to the point of like the fans being just turning on it because they overdo it. So I know it's a small thing, but I do like them together. I just want Randy to say something once in a while. He's been very quiet. Are you enjoying RK Bro?
Yeah, I completely forgot they were in the match because I still think of Randy Orton by himself.
I know.
And I try to forget Matt Riddle. So, no, I'm enjoying it. I think the key thing's funny. I think, honestly, at this point in Randy's career, I think he has more creative control over his character than we know. Because he's a name and he's a veteran and he's never injured and he's Randy Orton. He's one of the best wrestlers on the planet. Because I was thinking that the other day, I've seen recent interviews with him and it seems like he's trying to try new things. And I think like he could be funny. Obviously we're seeing this, but it was a subtle touch of his facial hair that changed this week. And it looks like evil twin Randy Orton. Like he looks like a black hat with that goatee and that little spike soul patch. And I'm like, this is interesting. Cause like Randy always looks the same. He's looked the same for the last, 15 years, unless his head is like buzz cut or shaved. He has a scruffy beard. He doesn't, he's a good looking man. He doesn't have to do a lot. So I thought that was a really nice subtle touch. And it's kind of like hinting that, he's still evil Randy Orton. Maybe he's going to end up screwing Riddle in the end. I don't know, but they might get the titles too. It's something that was unexpected. Nobody thought that Randy could work with this loudmouth, annoying kid, but maybe he sees something in him. Maybe they get along, and they're working towards something. But I don't think this is going to necessarily be an overkill of like one thing for Orton, even though they've done it in the past with him. Recently, his character stuff has had a good lifeline, and it has, fizzled out right, I guess. The Bray Wyatt and Alexa Bliss stuff is another story, but his character has been fantastic lately, and every iteration that he's doing. So I like the key thing. It shuts Matt Riddle up. So and that's the point of it. It's to shut Matt Riddle up. But
Yep.
Randy's always lurking. He's always thinking. So he'll do something. We all know he will.
And it's a stark contrast from the "I'm literally going to kill you at WrestleMania" storyline, burning people alive and threatening lives. This is such a nice kind of just a break from that 4-month program with Bray Wyatt that ended in one of the worst finishes in WrestleMania history. So this is a nice kind of cleanse your palate type of Randy Orton where he's not completely changing who he is. He's just involved in something much more light, and you're seeing a different side of Randy. Even though he's not acting funny and joking, it's still just a different version of him. And you're right with the facial hair that's like a goatee, but not quite a goatee because he's got like only 60% of it. I'm enjoying this. I really am. And I think they're going to stretch this out probably for at least another couple months because they really don't have any other really good stuff going on Raw. Like this is one of maybe 2 things that are good on Raw. So they cannot afford to bomb this and decide to turn Randy on Riddle or even Riddle on Randy. I know some people are thinking about that, and that could be the case too, but I want this to go as far as it can go, squeeze all the juice out of it until it's just nothing left, and perhaps they get to a live audience first before they do that. It's only a month or so away, so I want to see how the crowd reacts to them. I think the crowd would be very, very receptive to RK Bro. They've already made T-shirts. They made merchandise for the damn thing already, so they're not going to be burying this anytime soon. So
you say that though, but you do remember Chris Jericho and AJ Styles tag team, right? And they had the shirt for like 2 seconds and they
Yeah.
broke up that week. So you never know.
You don't
I
know.
mean, they
but,
just
yeah.
released a shirt, I think, for Strowman, or they had pre-orders for him and he got released.
Mm-hmm.
I saw that on Twitter. So you never know. You never know.
Well, as a general rule, I mean, like
Yes.
you wouldn't create all this merchandise. And they are actually, I actually thought about buying Randy Orton's sweatshirt. I mean, it looked pretty cool with this, what was it, like a viper with a, I don't know, like a hat on or something. It was something, some kind of combining their logos.
Yeah.
It was creative. So I actually may invest in one. It was pretty neat. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's not a all the time, but most of the time, if you create merchandise, come up with, the logos and come up with the shirts and all that stuff, you wouldn't want to put all that effort in just to crap on it the next week. But all right, the next thing that happened on Raw, this was not on Hulu, but I did actually see some highlights for this. Jackson Ryker defeats Elias via countout when Elias ran from the ring and into the backstage area. And actually, what I want to add to this, as I got a little bit a tweet from WWE Stu, the WWE Stu, listener of the show. He said that I was in the Thunderdome for Raw last night. The producer in our ear, who gives audio cues to the fans because we've never seen the product before, was encouraging us to cheer for Jackson Ryker. So just wanted to add that. But what are your thoughts on this match?
I watched that match. It was good. They're two big guys. They're bruisers. I mean, I kind of know Jackson Ryker more from when he was Gunner in TNA than when he was in NXT. I've heard not such great things about him. I don't know how true they are because internet. So I think it's going to be really hard for somebody who looks like him to get over as a face. They're gonna have to do something very drastic to his character, like go full into the military thing, but in the good way, like they were trying to do with Lacey, Evans. Then him being kind of like a fringe militant, like group that they were doing with the Forgotten Sons, which I thought was a good gimmick, and that went away right away. Like, you don't even realize how much stuff they stopped and started in the last year because we're in this like weird time vortex or whatever because of 2020. So I don't know what they're gonna do. Elias is so stale at this point, and I don't know if there's anything else they can do with that character. Like, it was hot and they somehow messed it up. I don't know if it's just because it was better when he was a face and then they turned him heel right away. And you can't really do that with the like musical character unless you're the Honky Tonk Man. And like, I'm sorry, like he overrated. The Honky Tonk Man was overrated. So, and Jeff Jarrett. But Jeff Jarrett was a face for a long time. So I don't know. Both the guys need a character change. And they got to stop putting people together just because they look alike. And then separating them, because I'm noticing they're doing that now with Mansoor and Mustafa Ali, who's coming up, and it's cool. Like I get flocks of a feather, bird together, or whatever the term is, but it's just like they literally were like, well, the rest of the Forgotten Sons are released or gone or injured. I don't even know what happened to him. He kind of looks like Elias. Let's stick him with Elias. And it was just like, there's no creative thought to any of this, and. I saw an interview. I know we're going to get in the releases again with Aleister Black's been talking a lot, and he was like praising creative and all this stuff. And it just is like, dude, there's unlimited possibilities with you. And they literally kept you off of TV forever. Your gimmick was gold when it came up from NXT. This new thing was interesting, and you still got cut, and you were probably one of the best wrestlers in the world. Are you saying this because your wife might end up back there? Or like, I just want to, like, it's either creative has nothing for you and they write great stuff. So why is it getting cut? And then it always goes back to Vince. So I'm sick of this, Randy Earl, of we have to defend all this crappy stuff happening because it's literally been happening like more and more. It's like, seems like every month it gets worse and worse. Am I wrong in this?
Well, that's really the bigger question of, right? And we'll get to this at the end, but. And I'm not asking you to answer it, but where does this end? What is the end game? Why is this happening and happening much more frequently?
Yes.
Right. So we'll answer that. I really want to hear what you have to say about that. But yeah,
that's how I feel about Elias and him.
Now I hear you. And Jackson Ryker again. It's interesting. You never hear about the military background until it's time for them to turn babyface. Right, like we didn't hear about that from Lacey Evans, as you said. We didn't hear about that from Jackson Riker, and I understand why, because oh wait, he's a military guy. He defended our country. That automatically is supposed to make them a babyface. But how do we know them? I mean, there's a lot of guys and gals that are in the military that are probably just total a-holes. I mean, just because you're part of the military doesn't mean that you weren't dishonorably discharged or do things that are completely immoral or you're just a total jerk. I mean, so I understand the premise, but that's all we know about Jackson Riker. He's got zero body fat. He looks like Elias. He's in better shape than Elias, I would think. And he kind of looks like maybe an older version of Elias. I'm not really sure, but they do look alike. And Elias, playing the chicken, heel, runs to the backstage area. And you're right. There's nobody more in the WWE, perhaps, than Elias that needs a character adjustment and needs a character evolvement, if that's a word. He needs to move on from this. I come out, I sing songs, I get interrupted, and playing from face to heel to face. I said this on my show on Sunday that Elias is on pace to beat the Big Show in number of turns at this point. I mean, and he's constantly switching, and it really creates indifference in the character on top of the fact that he is just the same guy. He hasn't changed at all. He's this wannabe musician, and he put out an actual album, but he's kind of like the musical equivalent of The Miz, who thinks he's an A-lister. I mean, I get it, but I don't know. I don't really have a whole lot of investment in this, but if the fact of what Stu said on Twitter is true, that the producer's trying to tell us to cheer for Jackson Riker, I can't wait till that. I believe it, but I can't wait until this crap goes away in about 5 weeks when live fans are back and we can do what we want and not be told what to do, and they can't just really manipulate the narrative that this person is, a great guy or gal and this person is not. I really can't wait till fans come back.
It's going to be really interesting when they come back too, because again, people are going to be going out. Everybody's been cooped up. We feel like we have been under a lock and key for a year. So people are going to be much more into having a good time. And, I want to know how the fans are going to be reacting to this stuff that they've been trying to do, while they have control over it. Because you would think, I've said this before, that they would try new things that were more risky, because they can just try stuff, but they're doing all the crap that we don't like. What I think in the majority of, real WWE fans, not casual fans. I think the casual fans probably think this is garbage too. So I just feel like we'll have reached NWO levels that they get booed out of the building, debris gets thrown into the ring, because there might be a huge backlash from the fans when they come back. I know everybody's excited to go, but I know a lot of people aren't happy with the product right now either. And, we've got AEW and they're doing stuff. I mean, I know they have their own things, but there's other options now, real options with a live crowd that'll get TV ratings and stuff like that. So I don't know what's going on, though. We need to talk about this at the end of the show. It's just going to be very interesting to see how quick the honeymoon phase is over when the fans come back. I'm sure for the first 2-3 weeks, it's going to be all cheering. They're going to love everything. But I think the crowd turns real quick.
That's exactly what I was going to say. And it is. The honeymoon phase is a good way to put it. It'll be like a loving embrace, a loving reunion for just a short period of time. And then it's going to be, okay, this is what we think is really going on. We're going to tell you what we really think. And I hope they do that right off the bat. I wouldn't pay my hard-earned money to go and give WWE what they want rather than tell them what I want, since I'm the one that paid to be here. I hope the fans don't do that. I hope that they just right off the bat say, hey, no, this sucks. This is good. This sucks, because they should.
They should, but we never know, I hope they do that too. But usually there's just that nostalgia, you know what I mean? And people just are I haven't been out. I haven't been to a WWE show in forever. Oh my God, I haven't seen this person yet on the main roster, or this, So I think it's going to be like a honeymoon, for 2 weeks. But then I think if it doesn't change within that 2 weeks, the stuff that they're cheering is solid substance stuff, that crowd's going to turn real quick. It's going to be like Sheamus versus Randy Orton after WrestleMania 30, at the Meadowlands or wherever it was, Newark Center, and the place was just going absolutely crazy because it was like the 1900th time they saw the match and it was boring, you know?
Well, you know, it could last more than 2 weeks as I think about it, because they're going to different cities. All these cities that they're going to, this 25-city tour, have not seen WWE event in over a year and a half, 2 years probably at this point for most places. So it's going to be the honeymoon phase everywhere they go for the first time. So I hope that each crowd listening listens, or each crowd that is there listens to the previous crowd and starts to kind of build on their own narrative, starts to like go, oh, okay, yeah, the fans are cheering this guy, we know that they're back and it's great to see them, but let's really tell WWE what we think. But the honeymoon phase is a good analogy, because it's kind of like when, and I think everyone can relate to this, at the beginning of a relationship with your significant other, it's all butterflies and rainbows. You don't see any flaws in the person. It's just the best thing ever. You're enamored with them. Oh my God, everything's perfect. And it's the most dangerous phase to be in, because you're just so blinded by everything, because it's new and it's exciting. And then over time, all of a sudden you start to notice this and that. And you're like, I can't stand when they do this or that. This really pisses me off. And it starts to break down very quickly. After, I don't know, a few months, 6 months even, up to a year, and it just all of a sudden you're just like, okay. And that's when you have to realize whether you really love the person or it was just all kind of, the infatuation or honeymoon phase. So that was a good analogy, yeah. Okay, well, beyond that, we got Ricochet versus Umberto Carrillo. This was also not in the Hulu version, understandably why. But Carrillo hit a Spanish fly. I'm reading the results because I didn't see it. But from the ring apron, Sheamus, who was on commentary for the match, celebrated, neither man winning. So I guess, Mary, I'll toss this one to you. What do you think about Umberto Carrillo and Ricochet ending in a double countout?
I don't know. Ricochet's not wrestling in his gear anymore. He's just wrestling in black jeans. Like, I don't know if he's given up on life or they're just like, yeah, just go out in plain clothes or something like that. I think Umberto Carrillo is like really talented. He does nothing for me. You know what I mean? And this weird feud with Sheamus, and I tweeted at you last week when he lost twice in a row. Mm-hmm. This is why I said the U.S. Championship should have an open challenge in the contract every week, and the U.S. champion wins every week until they find somebody who is worthy to take it off of them. What John Cena was doing, what AJ Styles was doing. Every time there's a champion, they lose constantly in non-title matches. Oh, wins and losses don't matter. Yes, they do. Credibility, because now, Sheamus got his nose busted open, and I feel bad. He's got the Trish Stratus mask on that she had when she fought Lita on Monday Night Raw in one of the only women main events at the time. And, he's still wearing that weird jacket. Now his hair is all down. And I just, I was really excited when Sheamus won the U.S. Championship, but he looks like a chump again. Why isn't he rolling through that division as a heel champ? He's a brawler. He's a fighter. You want to do the 1920, New York City Irish dude gimmick? Fine. Do it. Why is he losing twice in one night? It's just, again, just poor decision making. They don't even build their old stars at this point.
Yeah, no, they don't, and I don't. It's interesting. I think along with AJ Styles and Omos, or Omos, I don't know, however the hell pronounce it. I've heard all different versions. And Sheamus winning their respective championships at WrestleMania. It seems as if the creative got them to WrestleMania, and then someone said to creative, "Hey, what's going on with these guys after WrestleMania?" And they just shrugged their shoulders, like, I don't know. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Like, that's exactly the way it feels, because they had nothing for the tag team champions for 4 weeks. Sheamus gets thrown into the lower mid card with Umberto Carrillo and Ricochet, which they both could be higher, but as they're currently projected to us, how they're presented, they are the lower mid card. And Sheamus, who was really the unsung hero of 2020 in some part, who did really a phenomenal job being a great heel, gets relegated back to the lower mid card as a United States champion, the number 2 championship on Raw. And I don't understand what they've done with Sheamus here. I want to see Sheamus just kicking people's heads off. Even if he's a babyface, I wouldn't mind it. I think he's always better as a heel. But I don't really care about Ricochet and or Umberto Carrillo. I think, again, ultra-talented guys. super talented, insanely athletic. We know that, but they have no personality. Why am I supposed to care who wins, other than like Sheamus, who's the most established star there? It feels like he's being demoted, even as champion. It's weird.
It's and that's the messed up thing too, because Ricochet and Umberto should be higher. They should be competing. You know, if the cruiserweight championship should still be a thing. I'm sorry, it should have went to 205 or whatever. Like, they should be. These are like the modern days Jerichos and Rey Mysterios and all these guys that like literally were the backbone for the WWE in the 1990s. Like, made people tune in because there were finally people their size wrestling. And they're super talented, and there is, you know, gimmicks for them. Like, Ricochet had a great gimmick, and it got ruined because they put a stupid bullet noise in the front of his music when he comes out, because Vince McMahon thinks that's cool.
Bullets Ricochet, Mary, come on.
I mean, what, he was a high flyer. Yeah, you know, like, I know he's like kind of got no personality, but I'm sure there's one there, and it seems like he was doing really well in NXT. So I don't, you know, always thinking that there's a disconnect with the audience when there really isn't a disconnect with the audience. Like, why don't you just let them, like, try to figure it out? You know, it just doesn't seem like they're letting them try anything. It's just like, you're a body with a name.
Yep.
Yep. That could do really cool things.
Like,
you know?
insane stuff. Like, it's the things that Ricochet does, you know, I often wonder if he's, you know, actually just 100% human, or if there is some kind of supernatural part of it, because he is insane in the ring. And I have all the respect in the world from a physical standpoint from what he can do. And Umberto Carrillo, who's, you know, got the, you know, face of a 14-year-old child, but he's still good in the ring. And I respect both men. It's just, you talk about lack of character development, and this is a larger issue that we could go into a whole other podcast about, is lack of character development, and all about the athleticism, and very low on the personality scale, which, again, I would argue to the death that, if, you know, in the ring is secondary to somebody's character, because you can relate to a character and a personality. To me, the stuff that happens in the ring is built around those characters, because you then care if they win or lose. Without character, it's just fireworks going off to me. It's, oh, cool, next one, bang, bang, bang. And fireworks, it's always about the next one, like what's coming up next. It's not really an emotional investment. It's cool to look at, but you don't really have an emotion towards fireworks. That's how I always kind of look at this type of booking. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just going to move on, because I want Sheamus in an actual program that I care about, because I think Sheamus is deserving of it. Sheamus could easily be world champion, a heel world champion. He could be in Bobby Lashley's spot right now, easily. So, okay. Jeff Hardy versus Cedric Alexander. Jeff Hardy beat Cedric via pinfall with a swanton bomb. First of all, I will say, Jeff Hardy getting a win is probably the first thing that I've noticed here. I don't even know the last time Jeff Hardy got a victory. So this is a big deal. Jeff Hardy win. I know it's Cedric Alexander, who's like, you know, the bottom of the card right now, but at least he got a victory. I can't believe it. I mean,
it's like this weird double-edged sword, because it seemed like they were pushing Cedric, you know, because he was beating Shelton Benjamin out of the, you know, the Hurt Business, and they should, you know, another supremely talented guy. I like what he was doing, you know, like saying all that stuff that he was saying to Benjamin, and being like, I'm better than you, and you're washed up, and I'm the future. And I mean, look, Jeff Hardy is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. I'm never going to say a bad word about him. I'm happy that he got a win, but it's just, how do you not have anything for Jeff Hardy? Why is he still doing the things that he did in 1995? Not that I don't like that gimmick, but like, dude, we all know he's a 40-year-old man now. And it's like, you know, the automatic other thing is they go back to his alcohol, you know, addiction or his drug addiction, and they have nothing to say about him. They're just like, oh, he overcame so much. You know, he's not just an addict. Like, he's a really, really, really awesome wrestler. And half these guys looked up to this guy when they were coming up. All those high flyers, Ricochet and all them, Jeff Hardy was doing these things before that, and he's a former world champion. They wanted the money invested in Jeff Hardy, not Matt. That's why Matt's already gone. They brought back the Hardy Boys. Matt Hardy had this amazing gimmick that was over everywhere else, and they screwed the pooch on that. So it's just like this weird double-edged. Yeah, I'm super happy that Jeff Hardy finally got a win. He deserves a win. You know, they need to find something to do with him instead of him being now, you know, the Hulk Hogan that they trot out sometimes, because it seems like that. You know, it's like, oh well, you know, he's just kind of a nostalgia act at this point. But like, if you're gonna push Cedric should have won that match. And I don't understand. And Cedric and him, if you like think about it physically in the ring, like, you know, their skills and stuff, it's a pretty even matchup, you know, with the exception that Cedric is a little bigger than, you know, Jeff Hardy, but their style is very much the same. You know, he's a high flyer. He's just got a little more muscle behind it. So it's just another weird booking. Like, what are you doing? Is this going to lead to something where he's like passing the torch? Okay, but there really isn't a storyline between Jeff Hardy and Cedric. So why would Jeff win unless Jeff's getting something else? Or what, is Cedric going back gone? Like, what happened to Shelton? Like, I just... Ugh. It's muddled.
Well, I'll say this. If Jeff Hardy gets a win next week, I would say that we might be onto something with Jeff, because Jeff was the Intercontinental Champion not too long ago on fire, and then literally got dropped off a cliff. I mean, just completely obliterated.
The Sheamus storyline, because it was like, you know, it was literally them doing the CM Punk's Jeff Hardy storyline again, except we said this, we talked about this, except when CM Punk did it, it made sense because he was straight edge. How is a drunk Irish guy making fun of the alcoholic?
Yeah, I mean,
it's like so, like, not to be stereotypical and stuff like that, but literally the guy is like, I drink pints and I go to bars. Like, how are you better than him?
That's all he talks
about.
Why?
Because you know why? Because you have it more under control? No, you probably don't. It's just you haven't gotten caught. Like, I'm not saying that about Sheamus personally. I'm just saying about his character.
Right.
Like, I just don't understand it. They did this already, and CM Punk and Jeff Hardy's storyline was a zillion times better, but because it made sense, and it was when it first happened. I know Jeff has had some indiscretions in the last couple of years. Again, that's what happens with people with this disease, but like, we don't need to like keep bringing it back up. Like, it just seems like really insulting to him too, because he's done so much for that business and that tag team division and putting the ladder match on the map a lot, you know, with Edge and Christian and the Dudleys. It seems really terrible taste, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is, and I get why they're using it. Oh, well, you know, when you know, art meets real life, it's more engaging, and yeah, it can be, but the problem is they've gone to the well so many times that it's actually uncomfortable, because I'm sure Jeff Hardy, I mean, well, he may not say it, and he's probably just agreed to the story. Yeah, man, that's cool, whatever, because he's so easygoing, it seems like. I'm sure deep down he was like, do we really need to go here and air my dirty laundry over and over and over, and then tempt me with alcohol on, you know, live TV? I know they did this last summer with Sheamus. But you know, it's in bad taste when it happens, no pun intended, when it happens over and over and over. And we get it. He was a recovering alcoholic and drug. We get it. He has a tattooed demon on his back as kind of like an homage to everything he went through. Like, I understand that. And I can respect that, but it is extremely hypocritical for a guy that talks about going out for a pint almost every single promo. You know, it's like, it's a little much, and I hope they don't keep going back to it. Yeah.
It's just tasteless at this point, and it's like, again, everything you just said, like, and I respect the crap out of the guy. People don't understand how much effort and stamina and willpower it takes to go through what he did and to try to stay clean. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, you don't need to like rub salt in the wound. He's doing the best he can, you know?
Right. Well, on to a big matchup here. Nikki Cross and Asuka defeat Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley. This was, you know, I'm reading the description. I saw this, obviously, but let me read the description just to kind of jog people's memories here. Flair and Ripley argue backstage early in the show, with Rhea saying she respects Cross. Unlike Flair, this led to a situation where the two were challenged to team up against Cross and an opponent of her choosing. Ripley and Flair argued and brawled throughout the match until Flair hit Ripley with the natural selection, allowing Cross to sneak the pin. So let me just say this. Can we, first and foremost, can we stop talking to the camera when we're having conversations and talk to each other? I mean, it is like, I'll get to the match in a second. It's getting worse. It's like almost like they're not even looking at each other anymore, and they're more concerned about the camera. That if you're watching a pro wrestling presentation, I shouldn't believe that you're aware of the camera there. You should just be doing things, and cameras happen to be there. Whereas they are so clearly like talking for the camera, and like they're sideways talking to each other. Does anybody have a conversation like that? Does anybody stand? They don't look at each other. They're just kind of like
The only
parallel.
time you do that is when you're in an elevator.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that is the only situation in life that happens. So before I even get to the match, are you noticing this? Does this bother you, or is it the only one bothering me?
I mean, I didn't really realize it until now that it has been happening every single
Charlotte's the worst too, by the way.
But I think there's a reasoning behind Charlotte doing it. Like, I'm not trying to, and I crap on Charlotte when I can. I think she's doing it as I'm better than you. I'm so much better than you that I'm dismissing you. You don't even deserve my full attention. I'm just talking.
Well, the Street Profits do it. They're also really bad. Like, the Street Profits are also extremely bad at doing this. But I
think there's a method behind Charlotte. I get what you're saying with Street Profits. I think when Charlotte does it, for me at least, it comes off as I'm so much better than you that, like, you don't even, as a girl, I'm just thinking this. I'm so much better than you that I'm not even addressing you full on. Like,
you're not worthy of all of my attention.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah.
And that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Rhea's talking at her. It's just Charlotte staring at the camera.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess now I'll pay more attention to people other than Charlotte, but I've noticed in general they're pointed towards the camera way more than they're pointed towards one another, whoever it is. But Charlotte, it makes more sense for her character, so I'll look and see for other people. So, okay, but the match itself, Nikki Cross is, first of all, she looks really good. It seems like she has lost some weight. I didn't even think she was overweight, but she looks good. I think that her character is very likable. She's a very easy to like person, and that's cool. They have a baby face that we can get behind, and she's the underdog, blah, blah, blah. But the problem is that they're giving her wins that are extremely uncredible. She's got 3 wins in a row for 3 weeks now. 2 of them were beat the clock challenges in which the competitors forgot about the clock running down. And one of them, Nikki was just running around the ring eating up time so she'd get a victory. And then this week, we got Nikki Cross winning because Charlotte hit natural selection on her own partner, Rhea Ripley. So I have no problem with Nikki Cross winning. And this match was really good. And Asuka is back, and she's just doing her wacky cartoon stuff and whatever. But I am a little bit concerned that we're supposed to get behind somebody that's getting these fluke victories as a babyface on Raw. So what do you think about this match?
I thought it was a good match. I like Nikki Cross. I'm not in love with her character. I get what you're saying. She's this cute little Scot, and you can barely understand what she's saying sometimes.
It's such a heavy accent.
Such a heavy accent. But I think it would be really fun to hang out with her. So, that's cool. For me, and again, little things with me, her music needs to go. Yeah. Why she got some Mickey James music? This girl's first Scotland. I know we already got somebody from Scotland and stuff like that, but country music, like bad country music, she should be coming out to a rock song or a metal song or something like that, and which in return, makes me miss that kind of crazy, person that she was in NXT. I'm trying to think of insidious person, the mean person she was, because she worked it really good when she was with that faction, like a Bloody Mary type or something like that. So I like her winning. I think she has a chance to be a contender, but you're right. It's, of course we're going back to 2-minute women matches. Why would we have more? I thought we stopped this. I know it was beat the clock. It was a joke, guys, but it's still the same thing. But yeah, it's I don't know what to say about it. I like that she's winning. I get what they're doing with Charlotte and Rhea. That's just going to keep, for some reason, they're going to keep putting them together, because always put the two people who they hate, together in a tag team and not have them wrestling anybody in the division to prove that they're the champion, Rhea. I don't know what they're doing. Again, it's just like they have 4 different storylines going on with 4 different people, and they're putting in a match, but I hope Nikki goes far, and Asuka should be able to land back on her feet. It seems like she's good at it, but we don't know when that's going to happen.
No, and I'm just glad that the Asuka Raw Championship run is over, and that's sad to say. And I'm not going to bury what I've already talked about 100,000 times. The run she had as Raw Women's Champion was inexcusably bad, and that's not her fault. But her in a new program with Nikki Cross, I think freshens things up for her. And Charlotte and Rhea, I could see, happening for the next like 2. I mean, I could see this going on almost to SummerSlam with Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley in a championship match, and maybe throw in Nikki Cross here and there with a triple threat or whatever. But I think it's going to focus a lot around Charlotte and Rhea all the way, like I said, all the way possibly through SummerSlam. And the draft, I actually did get dates on the draft that's coming up in WWE, and this is from the Matt Men podcast. So yeah, shout out to them. But this is supposed to take place on August 30th on the Monday Night episode of Raw, and then the Monday Night Raw episode, and then continuing into the September 3rd episode of SmackDown. So WWE does have 3.5 months or so to get their crap in order and have a draft and freshen things up. So we got the current rosters, guys. We got to get used to it because it's going to be around for the next 3.5 months.
I mean, the other thing that's going on with this match is that maybe Nikki's going to be the challenger for the title, like after Hell in a Cell. Like, I guess, like just saying if Charlotte loses, or if Nikki gets inserted in the match at Hell in a Cell, or I'm sorry, if Charlotte loses and if Nikki gets inserted in the match at Hell in a Cell or something like that. And then, but you got to remember something else that's looming that I don't know if you thought about.
I know what you're going to
Becky
say.
Lynch.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Yep.
And we got live audience, and Becky Lynch returning at SummerSlam is money. And I think that she most definitely would show up at SummerSlam before just getting drafted on Raw. She's going to probably be the hottest free agent on that draft because she's not on a brand technically right now. She's non-active. So this could be leading also to Charlotte versus Becky at SummerSlam. That's what I would do. That's the route. I don't think she needs to dethrone Rhea. She needs to go against her arch nemesis. That's going to be the storyline. If they're smart about it. I know we've seen them a bunch of times, but, Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair is levels of like a John Cena and a CM Punk. Like that thing is going to go forever. And that's who she should be facing when she returns for the title. And that's my fantasy booking.
No, I like it.
Yep.
And live people back. That's such a big deal. You cannot bring Becky Lynch back until live fans are there. I mean, it's criminal. It's like having Stone Cold come out during the first episode of Raw with that was just, it was painful to watch, to hear Austin's music hit and, nobody cheering. It's just, it was weird. So yeah, I think fans coming back is a big deal, not just for Becky Lynch's possible return, but so many other storylines they may have been putting on the back burner where it wouldn't have really been as good as it could have been had fans been there. And I think it'll entice some potential legends to come back and maybe have that one more match like a John Cena that's been roaming around for a while. So we'll have to see. But fans coming back is nothing but great. So Mansoor defeats Drew Gulak via pinfall. You alluded to this a little bit earlier about putting guys that look the same together, but go ahead.
Ali was watching his match. He got another win. I don't know much about him. I think he's good. He's got a good look. But it seems like, Ali, after, Retribution didn't work out, he's still looking for somebody to hang out with. So now he's wearing a suit. He was the leader of, Antifa like 3 months ago. But now he's in a suit. So I have no idea what's going on with that storyline. That is the only thing that I got from it. And good to see Drew Gulak on TV. I do like him. It reminds me of Daniel Bryan. I like the whole thing they had going with Daniel Bryan. So it was a feel-good match, Matt.
No, it is. And the thing is, all of these men, Mansoor, who, by the way, if you ever go to Saudi Arabia, I would not want to face Mansoor because he is God over there. You will never win the match that you're against Mansoor in because he is the hometown boy. Now, Mustafa Ali and Drew Gulak are as good of performers as it gets in the ring. I mean, they are, especially Drew Gulak is like kind of like a wrestling purist. He is so good in the ring. Again, Mustafa Ali is the same thing, and Mansoor is good too. That again, this just comes down to zero story. Let's just put them in the ring because they put on good matches. Like I don't want to just deal with good matches. Like if you don't care about characters, then I don't care about the match. I mean, it's good even if it's great. So anyway, yeah, I mean, Mansoor defeating Drew Gulak via pinfall is like, it's whatever. I mean, I really don't have anything much to say about this until they give me a reason to care. I will say Mustafa Ali showed a lot of promise as the leader of Retribution in his promos. And it went absolutely nowhere, as Retribution has mercifully been disbanded, hopefully permanently, and stricken from the records of WWE ever existing. I mean, if we can do that. But Mustafa Ali, I like his promos when he gets mic time, and I think he's great in the ring. So hopefully bigger things are on the horizon for Mustafa Ali. But, okay, well, here's another big match that happened on Raw. Kofi Kingston defeats Riddle via pinfall. He hits Trouble in Paradise. But beyond this match, I think the more interesting piece of this is, yes, Kofi Kingston defeating Riddle was, I mean, I think it was actually kind of an upset given the position of Riddle and RK Bro. You would think that they're kind of on the ascent, but they continue to lose, yet they're still together. But I think the bigger point in this is the conversation that MVP had with Kingston prior to the match, where MVP was accusing Kofi Kingston of allowing Kofi Mania to die. He talked about the fact that he saw a glimmer of the man that was WWE champion, kind of really put Kofi's manhood into question. And Kofi came back and said, I do this all for my kids and my family and all this kind of like mushy crap. But it was a look in Kofi's eye that I haven't seen in a while, because it wasn't all about the joking and the pancakes and the trombones that's been going on for 74 years now with the New Day. It's actually, part of Kofi that drew a lot of fans to him, and it's not the joking garbage. It's what this guy can do in the ring, the longevity he's had in the company, and when he actually shows some fire on the mic, he can be okay. He can be good. And so do you think this is leading to anything where Kofi, maybe defects from the New Day, or what is this leading to? You can talk about the match, of course, but I think the biggest point here is the MVP conversation.
Like I said earlier with the tag team turmoil match, or whatever, the battle royal.
Mm-hmm.
I think the reason why the New Day didn't win is because I think the New Day is finally getting dissolved. I don't know if that means a Kofi heel turn, which would be interesting because we've never seen it. I think MVP talking to him was for a reason. MVP has gotten to almost like Heyman levels with his advice and being a backstage person now. I feel that he's a really good source for guys to get under, and he might, maybe he deflects to the Hurt Business. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he just is a solo guy with MVP as his manager, or maybe he just goes. But I think that the New Day's numbers are numbered. That was way too many numbers or something like that.
I know where you were headed. You were so close. Yes.
I was so close.
Yes.
So I think that's where we're heading with it. I don't think the New Day is going to be a thing much longer. Xavier Woods has been having a bunch of single matches, and he's been killing it. And he's been showing that he is probably actually the best wrestler in the group. And he's just always the hype man. And I think at some point, you got to cut your losses. So we already got Big E gone, and he's a face, clearly. And Xavier Woods, he would be a face too. But where do you go with Kofi as a face? The same guy that he's been for the last how long he's been with the company. Where do you go? I mean, you already did it with Kofi Mania, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he is kind of mad about Kofi Mania dying, because he got pretty screwed after all that. He was out of the main event picture, and he hasn't been back in till today. Till recently, and he's lost. So I don't know. Maybe you're on to something, Matt.
I'm not a Kofi Kingston fan. Again, the man himself. I will reiterate this: the man himself, as a person, everything I've heard, great guy.
I love him.
No issue there. Really good in the ring. I just cannot stand the New Day character. I think he actually is the worst part of the New Day. I think Xavier Woods is at least tolerable. I don't know. I don't like Kofi Kingston in the New Day faction. But anyway, the thing is, though, they're trying to recreate something that was organically a movement with Kofi Mania. You can't recreate something that's organic. It's a oxymoron. There's no such thing as an organic or a a created organic movement that doesn't exist. It's not a thing. You can't do that. It either happens organically or it doesn't. You can't manufacture it. But, beyond that, if this was such a big deal to Kofi Kingston that he lost the championship, that was 2 years ago, buddy. I mean, all of a sudden, you have to be reminded about it. This didn't bother you, until 2 years later after Brock Lesnar beat you on SmackDown, on the first one on Fox. Like, now you're just getting around to going, oh, yeah, like, I forgot about that. Like, no, and what made it the worst, I didn't forget. After he lost, WWE didn't do anything with the creative on that. They just had him next week out there smiling, throwing pancakes, running down to the ring. I mean, that was, you talk about damaging his character and damaging the belt, because you're telling us this is the most important thing, and all of a sudden you don't give a damn? I mean, it was just a bad job out of everyone involved on that decision. But all of a sudden, again, we're supposed to care about something that he hasn't cared about in 2 years. So,
yep. I mean, I get what you're saying, but like, I was gonna make a joke of, well, maybe creative finally thought of something for him, and they were like, "Hey,
it took him 2 years.
You bring up that you guys, because everybody talks about it online, but nobody else brings it up." And I just guess they had a fire match one night, and they were probably like, "Oh yeah, remember when Kofi won the title? We could use that." And I wouldn't be surprised, because like, even though Kofi Mania happened, and it was very much the same way, like you said, organic, like Daniel Bryan happened and the Daniel Bryan movement happened. And I still think that Vince was really bitter about that happening, because he just couldn't stop it. So when it happened again, instead of fighting it, he leaned into it, and he was like, oh, well, when, I take it off of him, I'm not going to do crap for him. It just seems kind of like that too, because Kofi was getting over, and he'd been there forever, like a background player, and it was great. I was so happy when he won that night, like literally joyful that he won, because they have a problem with putting titles on colored people there too, the big titles, and it was just a moment. You knew it was huge for him. So I don't know. That's how I feel what happened with Kofi Mania after it, fizzled out, because I pretty much think that people were like, yo, this is like Daniel Bryan level. You got to go with it. And this time he couldn't fight it. And the first time he couldn't fight it either, but he was mad because he had a plan, because Batista was going to be champion, So it's just, I hate to think like that. I know, like, we're getting to this stuff at the end, but like, I've just like been looking at this weird perspective now, because it can't just be like random stuff all the time. It has to be one person. You can't have that bad of a writing staff.
Well, I think maybe they have too many writing staff. Where
too many cooks in the kitchen.
That's what it is. It's a revolving door. That is the last place I'd want to work as a writer. Yeah. I mean, you are.
People send me emails all the time about it. They're like, "Why don't you do this?" And I wanted to at one point, and then I was like, "They'll never let me have a word, because I'm a wrestling fan." He doesn't want wrestling fans in there, and it's not even a revolving door. It's the wrong people writing for the product. They have like a couple like peppered in. But
a lot of them don't. They don't understand what wrestling means. Like, it's different writing for a TV show or a movie than it is pro wrestling.
Yeah. The younger guys that might care about it. Like, I know that Mick Foley's son was working for them. I'm sure he cares about it. Their opinions don't matter as much as Bruce Pritchard or all the older guys that have been Vince's yes men for years. It doesn't matter, and that's the same thing with the wrestlers. So. I don't know. That's what I think. But I would love to see a bad guy Kofi. Let's try it. It could suck, but we've never seen it. So we don't know,
I'm down for it. I mean, he's one of the few that have not turned. I mean, God Almighty, they turned Roman Reigns heel after they never thought they would. I mean, the only holdout would be John Cena, minus his Thugonomics character, that actually was heel for a little while. People forget that John Cena actually was a heel prior.
I never forget. It's my favorite John Cena.
Well, no, it is. But people always like, he's never been heel. Actually, he kind of has, but it's been forgotten because it was so long ago. And I understand. But I mean, I would love to see heel John Cena. Heel Kofi would be interesting as hell. I mean, what would that be? What would that? Yeah, like, what is that? What is that?
And I mean, if you remember when they were first pitching the New Day, they were pitching them as heels. They weren't all this stuff. And they tried, and we were excited for it, and then it didn't happen. They went full babyface. But they were, at first, the New Day Rocks thing was a heel move. It got them over, and they were like, oh, well, now your faces. So I don't know. It would be interesting, but it's also interesting that you mentioned the CHT because the article came out that he did an interview the other day, and they were going to change him. He had new gear. He was going to be a heel, and somebody squashed it. So and I know when he's talking about it was when The Rock came back.
Yep.
And I don't think it was going to be straight Thugonomics John Cena.
No.
I still think there is potential for returning Cena as a Hollywood Cena now. But he's doing that Peacemaker show, and he seems really goofy in it, so I don't know if that's going to happen. But I always hold out hope because I think John Cena is one of the most underrated heels, even in the Thugonomics character. He was so good. There was nothing that could touch him. And I just think that he's better sometimes as that sneaky guy.
John Cena, I mean, before he calls it a day, and this is, again, such a larger conversation that we could talk about for hours, so I'll be careful. But John Cena is a guy that, number one, he has not actually officially retired. I mean, we know he could still come back at any time, and I think it's at his leisure. And I think, again, the idea of fans coming back will certainly entice him to possibly, throw on his boots for another time or two. But John Cena coming back, again, as a babyface, I think it's the right move initially. If he was going to have a small run, say 6 to 12 months here and there, kind of on the Rock's schedule when he was in WWE in 2011, there's a way to do it where you could come back as a babyface, have his run probably against Roman Reigns, I would think. I mean, Roman Reigns and John Cena has to happen again. But John Cena, people don't understand how good he is on the mic. He shredded up The Rock when he was in 20, like completely owned him like a child. The Roman Reigns segment that he had in 2017, 2018, prior to the No Mercy match, that was secondhand embarrassment bad for Roman Reigns. I mean, it was so. I watch it from time to time and just see. It's a mountain and a molehill. I mean, it's unbelievable how far apart John Cena was at the time from Roman Reigns. And I don't think Roman Reigns is still at the level of John Cena right now, but it would be much more interesting given the character development and progression he has on the mic. So John Cena, a heel turn has to happen in his career. That's my point. He has to understand that he's got to play the heel at least once or twice before he hangs up the boots. Fans need it. Fans want it. It would be interesting. The problem is I don't know who he'd face. I don't know who would be on the other side of the ring against him. But John Cena as a heel, it's got to happen. He recognizes that. WWE recognizes that. So what do you think? Do you think it'll ever happen?
I always hold out hope. Like I said, I mean, you're just saying like recent promos. I mean, even if you don't know, if you go back and watch the stuff he did against Big Show when he was in Thugonomics, I mean, Kurt Angle, and this was all off the top of his head. Like, he is very underrated on the mic, but he was doing the same shtick for so long that it got stale. You're patronizing the people. So he's very good. He's very good promo man. I always hold out for it, but I think there's a better chance, if he does what The Rock did when he first went to Hollywood, and it wouldn't be playing the same gimmick because they're different people. So I think John would have a very much more Total Bellas. I always wanted that. I said that when he was on Total Bellas with Nikki Bella, he should be coming out in suits and Nikki should be his valet, and he should just be the idiot he was on that show because he did like some weird stuff on that show. I love John. I'm not insulting him, but I don't know if it was for the camera, but you're like, man, this guy's a dick, So he can work it. He can do it, but I don't know if he's ever going to do it. I don't know if Vince will ever let him do it. I don't know. And I think the only counter to him would be Punk, and I don't even think that's ever going to happen. Punk is never going back to WWE after this whole week with the tweets he was putting out. I'm convinced that's never happening now because I don't even know if the WWE is going to be the WWE. But
well, all right. Well, we're getting close to that. So
we're getting close to it, guys. Right. We're teasing it. The whole show is called
There's
the
only
tease.
2 more big things that happen on Raw. The McIntyre-Lashley contract signings, one, and then, of course, the ending with Shayna Baszler and Lily. We'll get to that silliness in a minute. But first, Lashley and McIntyre have, I think, a decent in-ring contract signing for, millions of contract signings we've seen in our lives that usually end up with somebody through the table 95% of the time. But in this case, it didn't, and I'm fine with that. I don't even need contract signings anymore. I'm done with contract signings. It's just I've seen every iteration possible of contract signings. But it was funny when McIntyre said it was the Lashley train, kind of referencing the Ho train, obviously from Godfather when there was that the gimmick he had, of course, with the hose coming out in the late 90s, early 2000s. And it's true. I mean, I don't understand the need for Lashley to have these.
When he said that, I started laughing.
Yeah, because
it's like,
and some people, but there's an audience that's going, "What is he talking about?" Right? Like they don't even know. But it was clearly a wink and a nod to like, "Hey guys, yeah, I know this is like the 2021 version of the Ho Train." But essentially, like, why? I actually don't agree with this. Like, again, I'm a straight man. I look at pretty women. I'm like, that's nice to look at. Again, but I don't want that on my wrestling screen, and I think it's a little bit regressive of them to do that for all the women that they're trying to progress in the company, and they've done a great job of doing. And again, I don't need to look at women that are supposed to be, or at least told to me that they're bought and paid for the night. I mean, like that's not a good look.
It just comes off weird.
It's just
at this point, like The Godfather, at least it was funny, and it was a time thing. It was of the time, and he was playing a pimp.
Right.
Bobby Lashley isn't a pimp. He's just some guy who's like paying for girls, and like not for nothing. Some of them were okay looking. A lot of them, I was like, okay.
I don't know.
It was just coming off like he's got to pay for girls. I thought he was like this like really impressive, like, well-rounded athlete, MMA wrestler. Like he doesn't need to do that. Like he could just have a girl. Like a different girl every week would be even better than that.
Agreed. I think it's how many he has. It is a little bit reminiscent of.
Yes.
Yeah. I agree. Maybe it
doesn't fit.
And if she's dressed classy, fine. Like I mean, like have her dress up where she looks like she's going on for a night on the town or something. Not that she's about to drop. He's about to drop her off at the local strip club at the end of the night, like for work.
It just seems kind of weird. It's
weird.
Not. It doesn't fit. But again, if he had like a different pretty woman on his arm every week,
Agreed.
It's like, okay, yeah, he's
just
a
one.
scumbag.
Yep.
But he's got the one for the night,
Exactly.
So,
that's fine. I'm fine with that, but not these women that look like they're just bought and paid for.
I feel like they have like one of those big giant fish bowls in the back, and they have like every gimmick that they've done, they like throw in the bowl, right? And when they don't know what to do, they're just like, all right, you get on the ladder, go in, pull one out.
Yep.
And they just pull it out. And they were like, all right, we're going to break up the Hurt Business for no reason.
There really wasn't
After
a reason.
Bobby becomes champ for no reason. And then we're going to give him the Godfather's old gimmick to come out to the ring. When it doesn't make any sense because the girls are dancing, and that is not music you really could dance to. At least,
I mean, they even have a cane. Like, there's a cane now involved. I mean, like MVP has a cane.
I think MVP has a problem going on with his leg, maybe though.
Oh, I know. It's just I'm just saying it's kind of ironic.
But it's funny that you're saying that because I didn't even.
Yeah, like they're a feather and a hat away from being the Godfather. I mean, so. I mean, it is what it is. It's not as they're not dressed like they're.
The good thing is though, it's not taking away from the two of them. I don't think it is. I'm interested in their feud. I'm invested in it. I think that McIntyre has a good comeback for everything. And he's not really changing his character or, I think he's better than he was when he first became champ. I don't like the sword gimmick, but I get it. Like, it's fine. But he's still coming off like Drew. You know what I mean? So I like the storyline that's going on between them. I just don't know why they had to change everything around Bobby Lashley when it seemed like for the first time something was really clicking and working with him. He's a believable leader of men. You know what I mean? He's a believable leader. And being, the veterans who proteges, it works. It's not like he's just some muscle-bound dude who can't do anything in the ring. He is a fighter, and he is a very good wrestler, and he has a good look. And again, I don't want to take away that he's having a good program with Drew. I think they're doing the best that they can, and it's working, and it's not bad at all. Just the whole rearrangement around Bobby Lashley, I do not understand.
No, I don't. They're just trying to add a little, depth to his character, and I can appreciate that from that. I get that because Lashley, I want more than just he's a destroyer of men. I understand how big and strong he is.
Lesnar.
Yeah, exactly. We have that. We had Braun Strowman in that. And look what happened to Braun Strowman. I want more than that, and I appreciate what they're doing. It's just I think there's better ways to go about it. But the message here in this promo, this contract signing, was really two stipulations. One, that Lashley said if McIntyre loses, he will never again get a title shot against him ever. That's good because I think fans are like, okay, finally, this will never happen again if McIntyre loses. Which, by the way, guys, I mean he's almost guaranteed to lose.
Yeah.
I mean it's a foregone conclusion. McIntyre's done in the title picture after Hell in a Cell, which is great. But the second piece was that McIntyre told Lashley, okay, fine, but we're going to do this inside Hell in a Cell. Great. Okay, so we got one of the Hell in a Cell matches set up for the pay-per-view, and I think that's fine. And then it got a little cartoony with McIntyre using the sword to cut the table in half. I mean, it's just like that's the one part I'm thinking to myself, well, okay, how is that supposed to intimidate him? Are you really going to use the sword on Lashley? The answer is no. Like, I mean, it was just kind of like a cartoon thing to do. No one's ever done that. I get it. But it's just a threat that you're never going to follow through with. You're not using the sword. But so those are the stipulations. So overall, I thought it was a good segment. I think it was just plain good. I'd give it like a BB+. I thought it was very good.
Yeah, and I don't know, like, as far as him, when they said that, I automatically thought Drew was getting the title back. I don't know. The only reason that makes absolutely no sense is because I don't think they should take the title off of Lashley. But it just seemed like well, what do you do with Drew after that? Like, is he going to get drafted to SmackDown? Well, that's not happening anytime soon. Who's his opponent? Now, I'm not making this up. This is where Seth Rollins and Cesaro have been getting involved, right?
Yes.
Okay, so, like, is he going to go? Is there going to be a thing with Cesaro or Seth Rollins? Like, I don't even know. The Seth Rollins Cesaro stuff is great. I like that.
I really like that. Yeah.
I hope they don't change any of that. I like crazy, insane Seth Rollins. I think it's good. The guy's always changing his look, and that's great. And I think that's the signs of a good wrestler. And everything works for him for some reason. Like, every iteration of him has worked so far. So that's fine. But what do you do with Drew if he's not going after a title right now? Like, they just got rid of half their roster that's his size. Does Brock come back? I mean, everybody keeps saying, is Brock coming back? I think Brock's going after Lashley.
Yep.
So I don't know what's going on if Drew doesn't win. I feel like maybe Drew does win and then he drops the title again, but that seems like unneeded. So I don't know. What do you do with Drew if he doesn't win?
Well, I mean, he could. If AJ Styles and Omos drop their belts at Hell in a Cell, they could. You could have AJ Styles go after, or even Omos. I don't know how good of a match that would be, but you could have probably AJ Styles and Drew McIntyre lock up if they break down. There's not a whole lot of options, but the thing is, they have to think of something because this is really starting to disintegrate McIntyre's goodwill with fans. Even the most hardcore fans of Drew are like, okay, we've had enough of 18 months of you chasing the belt, and you had it for the majority of that 18 months. Can we please move the hell on and find something for you to do besides chase the belt? And I understand the importance of the belt. Belts are there for reasons that are important because you want people to care about being there because they should chase them. But McIntyre needs a personal feud. He needs a blood feud. He needs something that we're supposed to care about beyond him chasing the championship. AJ Styles is one opponent. I mean, I'm trying to think of even another one that Randy Orton.
But
no, not
that's why I said
yeah.
Seth. I mean, Seth makes sense because he's there, but he's with Cesaro right now, so it doesn't. I mean, but they could flip it on a dime. You know this, so we could be looking at something completely different.
They'd have to do a trade. I mean, they'd have to do a trade to SmackDown, or SmackDown to Raw, They'd have to have a monster trade in between now and the draft, which is 3.5 months away. And maybe they do something major as a hold me over for the draft, because Seth Rollins and Cesaro and SmackDown are, they're really good. And I think that would be a great program with Drew, but I don't know. I really don't know what they do.
So I was getting it confused. What was Seth Rollins? Oh, it was Roman Reigns. I completely just replaced two people because they had beards. Seth Rollins was interfering in the Roman Reigns matches and getting in his face and then going after Cesaro. I apologize. That was my mistake. But that's why I said Seth Rollins. I mean, it's still an option, though. I mean, Seth, you could put Seth in the ring with anybody. So I don't know where you go with Drew.
Yeah, it's tough.
And the only other reason I could see him winning is because he didn't get that title run with fans in the audience. And now the fans are coming back. So now they want to see how he does with the belt
I think
in
it's
front of fans.
Oh, I agree, and I think he should have that moment. But I think fans at this point, even again, the fans that are his biggest supporters are like, we want that moment with you too. But you've been doing the same thing for 18 months. Like, can we take a break for 6? Come back to Mania?
I think that people actually also like Bobby Lashley as champ.
I do
we
too.
don't know. I think they're going to feel it out when the audience comes back. Like, they don't know. Like, it seems, I'm not saying that Bobby Lashley is interim champ at all. I don't think he should be classified that. But you never know. They might have just taken the title off of Drew and put it on him, because they were like, well, this isn't working without a crowd. Let's finally give Lashley it. I don't know. You know what I mean? Because again, why would they break up the Hurt Business? He was over. It seems like they didn't mean for him to be like super over as champ. This is conspiracy theory, Mary, coming out. I am sorry. But like, I'm just like reading it like that. Like, why would they put that stipulation in and you'd be like, oh, okay, well, Drew's obviously got to lose. Like, well, what if Drew wins? Because what do you do with Drew after that? If he's champ, everybody's going after him. You know what I mean? And
right.
he didn't have it in front of but you didn't have that in front of fans. And like that Rumble when he eliminated Lesnar and all that stuff, like, it was huge. And I think that they had no choice to put the title on him, but they kept it on him. They were like, I don't know, like, again, I'm just spitting stuff. That's the only way I see him winning at Hell in a Cell, is that they put the title on Lashley just to get it off of McIntyre, so he could have it, win it, or have it when the fans return, because that's who they wanted as the champ. And they didn't expect Lashley to get over as champ so much, so they broke up the faction because that was what was getting him over.
I also think, though, that if Lashley loses to Drew clean, which presumably he would if it's inside the cell and there's no interference or nobody hiding under the ring, or they don't bust down the cell and somebody comes in anyway, barring all those wacky scenarios, I think that does a disservice to Lashley, because I think, number one, fans want to see Lashley have a long reign. I also think that if you're going to build Brock Lesnar for Lashley, you want Lashley looking unstoppable. You don't want it look like Drew McIntyre is able to take out Lashley, so why is Brock going after Lashley? I think it just chips away.
I agree.
So I don't want Lashley or Drew as champion. And to answer your question, who they're going to face, what they're going to do with Drew, well, I think WWE is asking themselves that exact same thing, which is why they keep going to the well with Drew McIntyre. They're asking themselves the same thing. Hey, guys, what the F are we going to do? We got to keep plugging and playing here because we don't know what to do with him. I mean,
and I get that, and I agree with you, and I agree with you 100% about Bobby Lashley. I do not think that he should not be champ. I want him to be champ. I want to see Brock Lashley if that happens, but I'm trying to think like them. I'm not trying to think of them doing a disservice to Bobby Lashley. They will not think of it that way. We think of it that way. I'm trying to think about how all this booking has gone in the last 18 months to 2 years almost with the pandemic, and just the stuff, like we said, changing things so quickly, like blah, 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 like delaying for when things come back, or whatever theory you might have. And that would be the only reason I would think that Drew would win at Hell in a Cell. I'm not saying he should. I'm just saying I'm trying to think in the way that they've been booking things lately, because the Hurt Business is still this huge question mark for me. So
it all comes down to living in reality, or the fans live, or living in the fantasy bubble of WWE wherever they live. That really. But you have to admit, I mean, that is one scenario. But I think that, no question, the odds are in favor of still Bobby Lashley retaining, even given that one scenario of like or reasoning why Lashley should lose it. But anyway, I think all of us can say we don't need Drew as champion anymore. Respect the guy. The guy's a made man, but it's starting to eat away, even at the most supportive of fans, where it's just like we feel like we're on repeat every single week with Drew. So, okay, now we get to the final segment of the show, which is Shayna Baszler. Guys, this is the main event. Shayna Baszler, and I have no problem with Shayna Baszler being put in a prominent position. We have all been complaining that Nia Jax has been the one that has really been riding her coattails, and she doesn't belong in a tag team, blah, blah, blah. We want to see her break arms. I agree. But Alexa Bliss, who I've praised here, has this haunted doll. Apparently it's like a ripoff of Annabelle. I'm not really sure. But she is in the middle of the ring with her swing set, and Shayna Baszler comes back and tells Lily she's a stupid doll, and just a stupid doll. Stomps on the doll, and that's when all hell breaks loose. And fire starts coming up, like Kane's about to come out. Fire chases her up the ramp, and conveniently, this kind of crap really gets me with production. Not only people facing cameras, but there happen to be cameras in every room ready just in case someone comes in the room. They can go live. This is where Shayna Baszler comes in. I mean, she's just apparently choosing random places to go in the building, but luck beholding, we have a camera there ready to go. I mean, I can't stand that stuff where cameras just are conveniently placed in areas that person's about to come into. That stuff really takes me out of the moment. But beyond that, we get a haunted segment that was there was music overplaying this. I mean, it was like watching a bad horror film, like a B-rated horror film. And they got Lily in the mirror, and when she turns around, the mirror, she's not there, and then Shayna Baszler ends up smashing the mirror. God Almighty! Maybe you thought higher of this. What did you think, Mary?
All right, guys.
Oh God.
All right.
Here we go.
So I've been sitting here defending Alexa Bliss this whole time, ever since the Wyatt thing happened. I said it was but I thought it was going somewhere. This has now reached the peak of, okay, no. They're completely whitewashing Bray Wyatt, so don't be surprised if he's one of the next names to release. I'm telling you that's going to come out. I cannot see him coming back and surviving this. I can't. And I feel bad. And it sucks. I know he's been having problems with, Harper, but they've just completely, everything that he built with that Fiend, it is jumped the shark. And I'm a fan of horror. I'm a fan of wrestling. I'm very easy to suspend my disbelief. I don't like haunted dolls. I don't like ghost things. That's the only thing that really scares me. I could watch all this stuff. It turned into a horror movie. And I'm sorry, how am I supposed to believe Shayna M-effing Baszler is scared? That girl ain't scared of nothing, okay? I don't buy it for 2 seconds. I don't buy even the toughest people. That girl is not scared of anything, okay? I would never want to meet her in a dark alleyway. Never. I would be terrified. She would murder me. I cannot believe she's as scared of a doll or these weird things happening. It just doesn't make sense. She's not the final girl in the act. She's not, the pretty blonde running up the stairs when she should be running out the front door. None of it was so convoluted. And it's like, do I want to see Alexa Bliss and Shayna Baszler? Hell yeah. I think it would be a really good program. I think Alexa Bliss is a good wrestler. I think it would be great. But if this is how we have to get to it, I'm out. You are completely discrediting Shayna Baszler of who she is. And it goes back to this WWE's got a blonde problem or whatever. I don't know what has happened to the women's division. I can't believe it fell that far off after Rousey left. And that's sad because they have so much talent. But you basically have Rousey in a different package, and it's Shayna Baszler. And you know what? She's scarier than Ronda Rousey. Make her what she is. What are we doing? Matt? What are we doing?
This is
both of them, because Alexa was doing amazing work until this came in. And again, curse word number 1. They're turning chicken into chicken salad. She really is. She really has been. I've been defending it. But then when they started, just leaving Wyatt out of it, and, I just don't think it was the right way to write him off TV. And now, this huge thing that was scary when he was doing it has become comical. And it's not that Alexa Bliss isn't trying. She was doing a really good job of it with the Randy Orton stuff. She was creepy as hell. Why do we have this stupid doll thing? She doesn't need it. She's super talented. And if she was just this crazy, evil entity, possessed girl, Wicca, whatever, who just showed up in the ring mysterious, like the Undertaker, the lights went out and whatever, and started her match and ran shot through the division and then just disappeared, I'm in. But this has just gotten I don't go see horror movies anymore because they're PG-13. You can't have a good horror movie if it's PG-13. I'm sorry. It's never good. It has to be R. It has to be.
Because they neuter it. Yeah.
They neuter it, and
Yeah.
this is what they're doing. I'm watching a PG-13 horror movie. I don't watch any modern horror unless it is rated R. That's it.
Well, I mean, that's going to be difficult for you to absorb, given that we're in the PG era. I mean, you're 2 levels away. Look, the fact that Shayna Baszler is scared is ridiculous. She, at least at the beginning, was acting like Shayna Baszler, saying, "This is a stupid doll. This is ridiculous." And I was like, "Good. This is bringing us to effing reality." And then slowly, once things started to become all spooky, she started to say, "It's just a doll. It's just a doll." Like she's starting to have a panic attack backstage. They have the scaffolding falling and things like, creaking. And it was like going through the House of Horrors with Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt. It was bad. And why is this whole program focused on the Hocus Pocus rather than the actual wrestlers themselves? I mean, Lily's not going to be in a match. Lily is a doll that is just a prop for Alexa Bliss. This should be about the wrestlers. It's getting way too far into the Hocus Pocus crap, and it's not getting enough substance between Shayna Baszler and Alexa Bliss, and it's coming at the expense of now Shayna Baszler's character, what she stands for, not being afraid of anything. You're undermining what makes Shayna Baszler great at the sacrifice of what? Showing us what you can do production-wise and production value on Monday Night Raw. And by the way, why did it take Alexa Bliss why did it take creative 2 effing months to do something with Alexa Bliss in terms of actually throwing her in a match with a wrestler and not just sitting backstage, doing her stuff on the swing and having creepy cackles from this haunted doll? It took 2 months. Guys, it's been 2 months since WrestleMania, and Alexa Bliss is still just sitting back there on the swing up until this past week.
Matt, I wish I had, an answer for you. And this leads us to what we've been hinting at all show. What is going on right now? That's why I just started screaming. What are we doing? What are we doing? What is going on with the WWE right now? I feel like they don't care what they're doing. They're just trying to show what they have to offer and establish things to, make a product out of, to make money off of. What's the word? I can't think of the word right now. Merchandise, to make merchandise off of, and all that stuff. And the rumors have been running, and you started off because I'm all over the place, Matt.
All right, I'll give you a breath here.
Give me a breath.
All right. I'll take it slow
Start
here.
with the release, I guess.
All right. So. Now, you guys have heard me talk on this at length, so I don't want to, say everything I've said before, but I'll paraphrase myself, and I'll just say that everything does seem to be pointing to a sale. Everything that's going on, you don't do unless you're preparing the company to look as good as possible from a financial standpoint on paper for when you go to offer the company for sale and you get the best price possible. You get the most money. You want the financials to look as good as possible, which is why you dump millions and millions of dollars in salary. Why it has to come at the expense of Braun Strowman? Again, I wasn't his biggest fan, but I think you really, really missed the boat on that one. Why it has to come at the expense of him? Why that's come at the expense of a guy that you never really gave a fair shot to and started a program and stopped a program in Aleister Black. Among others, Buddy Murphy was an excellent performer. Among others, there's
Ruby Riott,
for God's sakes. There's another, you could have a whole podcast about her. I just think it does point to a sale. People are talking about Disney. And is it possible it's Disney? Yeah, it is possible it's Disney. That also scares me that if this comes to fruition and Disney does purchase WWE, number one, is Vince McMahon really still in charge anymore? And number two, what does the product look like with Disney owning the company? I actually think it could feel a lot more cartoonish and childlike. I guess that those are the things I think of, and we all think of with Disney. I think it could get even worse creatively if Disney purchases it, but I could be wrong.
Once I started seeing everything and all the releases happen, I'm like, again, like, you just cut all these other people, and now you're cutting a lot more. You just said you had the most profitable year on record. You've been bragging about it.
Yeah, I wonder why.
You know, I could get into conspiracy theories all day. Me and my brother were talking about it, and you know, he brought up Saudi Arabia. All the money that they put into the Saudi Arabia thing, and then the pandemic happened. Who's to say that they didn't lose a lot of money and they need to pay them off? Maybe they're selling to them. I just know at this point that I feel like, you know, Vince, everybody knows how I feel about Vince, and I'm turning to my father every day about him. He is losing his marbles. We are seeing the effects of no sleep and steroids for, you know, hundreds of years. He is refusing to give up creative control. I think his mind is not as sharp as it was. And it was funny because I was watching the biographies and everything with my guy last weekend on Memorial Day weekend, and all the things that Vince, like all the big things that Vince has done, like other than the Undertaker, he's tripped into. It's never been his idea. It's been forced or accidental. Stone Cold wasn't supposed to win the King of the Ring. It was supposed to be Triple H. You know, Shawn Michaels and all that stuff. Like, it just seems like all the big things that happened, Daniel Bryan, like, tripped. He, like, Kramered his way into it. So I just feel at this point he's not willing to give up anything, and, like, he's not coming up with anything good at this point. He wants to have the money. The money is all that matters. This is my personal opinion, and people can attack me on Twitter. I've already said it. I don't think he gives a crap about the product anymore. I think all he cares about is making as much money as possible and getting out and retiring and just, you know, having his FU money has FU money, as my brother said. Like, I don't think Trips and Stephanie have a say in this. And I think at this point, he doesn't even care that it's his legacy and that it should stay in the McMahon family. The worst thing that could possibly happen is WWE getting sold out of the McMahon family. He already has a board of directors that he has to answer. If he sells it, it means it's going out of the McMahon family. Is Stephanie and Triple H going to still be working there? Sure. Are they going to be able to say anything? Nope. So I think people really got to think about it that way. And I'm not trying to say like he's the greediest man on earth, but he is. Like, we've seen what he's done in the past to get his way. He basically bought all the territories and destroyed the old way of wrestling. Not saying that the new way wasn't better, and it was, but a lot of that stuff he kind of tripped into. And if it wasn't ECW, which he didn't own, coming up his butt, I don't think any of those changes would have happened in WCW and WWE. You know, it's just he bought everything out so he had no competitors, and when push came to shove, he had to move. And I don't think a lot of it was him. I think it was the wrestlers. I think he was more with it. But right now, with all this stuff that's going on with the bad booking and the changing of the storylines, and them just like, you know, throwing things together, SmackDown is the better product still. And so is NXT, you know, but it all there's some poop stuff on SmackDown too. There's some crappy crap on SmackDown too. Just Roman Reigns is so good right now, you forget about it, you know. So that's my opinion about it. I think it's wrong. You know, every day I put on wrestling and I'm just like, why am I watching this? But like, it is going to be 20 times worse if the McMahons are not in the business or have the say for it anymore. And it's a shame too, because that's his family legacy. That is something that is like, if I had a company like that, it would always stay in my family. And I just don't understand him not wanting his grandchildren to possibly have that. Maybe they do want it already. I don't know. I thought way too much about this over the last 2 weeks.
It's, you know, if people ask me what I think the chances are that this happens, that Disney does purchase it, I mean, I would still say it's maybe like a 1 in 5 chance. I don't think it's a high chance that WWE is sold, but at the same time, I never thought they'd sell the WWE network, and that's their lifeblood, and they sold that to Peacock for $1 billion deal over 5 years. So this certainly is it's plausible, and it's all signs point to it. And what would WWE be right now without the Roman Reigns storyline? Pretend that doesn't exist, right? Like, pretend Roman Reigns isn't as great as he is, or that didn't ever happen. This product, this like may be historically bad. And yes, SmackDown is the better product, but I still think Roman Reigns is even bleeding over into Raw, at least in terms of for a lot of fans going, okay, well, at least they have the Roman Reigns storyline on SmackDown. Let's see what's going on Raw. Maybe they'll produce something at that caliber. And it's not happening. I mean, Raw is a total, just total show. I mean, I mean, it is. There we go. I already marked it down. It is a total disaster in terms of creative. There are some bright spots. Again, Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre. I think it's a good, solid, easy to understand storyline. RK Bro, it's got chemistry, and I think they're playing that out nicely. Outside of those two things, they have nothing else going on, and it's hard to follow. It's hard to watch. Plus, it's 3 hours unless you get Hulu, guys, and it's also just it's overrun with entertainment-y stuff that is sucking the life out of what we love about wrestling, and that's wrestling. So I mean, yeah, there's three. I'm filling the quotient for us, Mary. Or the quota. So that's what I feel about Monday Night Raw. It's a total disaster. Usually, other than those two bright spots, I think. So I don't know what else.
I mean, but at the same time, like, think about all the good stuff that has started in the last year. And granted, look, I'm gonna give them a little bit of a pass because of COVID. Obviously, you have to take all that into account.
Yep.
People were getting sick, blah, blah, blah. But they had a lot of good stuff that started, and they immediately stopped it. Yeah. The Hurt Business, Ruby Riott, the Riot Squad had a little thing going for a little bit,
Zelina Vega.
What was that?
Zelina Vega and her group.
Zelina Vega and Andrade and Umberto. Like, like we had good stuff that was going. Even the Bray Wyatt and Alexa Bliss stuff at first was amazing.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, well, pulling the plug. And it's like I know they do that, but like it just seems like every 2 months they would reset the roster and repair people and put people together. Like, Lana has had 5 teammates in the last year, and now she's gone. What's Naomi going to do? Is Naomi going to put back on the back burner again? Yeah. Like, it's just none of it makes sense. I can make excuses, or reasoning and stuff when it wasn't happening. Like, it seems like it's happening really frequently. And just all these power moves that have been happening, the network being sold and, putting all your money into this for contracts from Saudi Arabia and like all this weird stuff. And then you have the Trump stuff. And none of it, it seems like there's all these puzzle pieces and we're not putting it together and we won't know until it happens. But it just seems like something's leading to something. And, Vince is not a spring chicken. And I don't know if he wants to give that business to his kids. Maybe Stephanie and Trips want. I can't fathom that Triple H wants that to happen. But maybe Stephanie doesn't want to do it. But she could retire. She's richer than God. She doesn't have to work. It's just none of it makes sense. And I don't understand how you would want to not have this in your family. But I hope we're wrong. I really do. I really, really, really would not want to see the WWE sold to Disney or anybody else for that matter. That is a McMahon enterprise, and it should stay in the McMahon family. And that's my opinion about it,
I just don't think – I don't know if Shane McMahon hasn't been on the business end of things in a long time. I don't think he's interested in it. You said Triple H. I don't know. Triple H and Stephanie. Stephanie, I don't think would be interested in that. And honestly, she's more concerned about the brand, and she doesn't seem to be focused on the creative. She's more about spreading awareness of the brand and doing philanthropy and all this stuff that's all on the kind of a byproduct of running a multi-billion-dollar company. But I don't know. I hope that they don't. I understand Vince McMahon, believe it or not, is a mortal human being and will eventually die to some people's disbelief. He will eventually. And I don't know if beyond Vince, who actually wants that job? Like, who actually wants to be the guy or gal that does take in the McMahon enterprise and has massive shoes to fill? I don't know. So maybe there is a case to be made. Vince is looking around going, well, if none of my family want this and I'm going to die in 10 years, then what? So
I don't know. I mean, I feel if Shane was still in the business side, I think it would be different. I don't know what that personal is. I mean, you don't know. Maybe he's trying to get back in. I don't know what would stop him, but when he left, it was, a huge surprise. But who's to say that his kids, I mean, he's got 3 boys, who's to say those kids don't want it?
Maybe,
It just doesn't make sense. Like, you don't know. I mean, maybe they don't want anything to do with wrestling. I don't know. I cannot see Triple H not wanting to be in that position. That guy bleeds wrestling, and for all the crap we say about him, I think it would be in very good hands with him.
Yeah.
I think it would be in great hands. But that's not Stephanie's gig. Stephanie is the brand person. She's more of what her mom's role was. But I mean, he does have Triple H, but he does have 3 grandsons too. And I'm not saying that the girls don't want it either. He has 3 granddaughters. I just don't. It's a family business, and it just seems really weird that the McMahons wouldn't own it. But I think we're theorizing too much, but something's going on.
Yeah, I mean, beyond a sale, which we just kind of talked about at length, I don't know what else there could be. Like, putting sale aside and that possibility, I don't know what this is. I mean, is it really just worried about what Wall Street thinks about their financials and making sure that their stock price is, I mean, I'm thinking that's what it is. Outside of that, it's just straight up, let's make sure we're making as much money as possible and that our debt to income ratio looks as good as it can. And, look at everything we've saved. Look all the money we've saved. We may have fired 150 employees, but look at this. I mean, so I don't know.
It's just a lot of wrestlers. And for him to have had been, harvesting and hoarding all these wrestlers for so many years and the names that got cut. And I don't know if it's because there is another federation they can go to now that they'll maybe be getting paid the same amount of money. Maybe that's the good-hearted side of it. But not all those people are going to go to AEW. Some of them are going to not return or go to TNA and ROH. It just seems weird, some of the people that got cut. And then, you don't want to say, oh, well, this person should have been cut instead. But you're like, again, we released the Iconics and Ruby Riott, but we're getting Eva Marie. And,
no, Evolution. It's Evolution. Come on.
It comes Monday. I mean, come on.
We didn't even talk about it,
I just feel like I'm going to see a Bella twin very soon. And I brought up Johnny Ace. This stuff was going on when Johnny Ace was in charge, and now he's back in charge again. And Punk, as soon as all those releases, going into my Punk as I do once a show, as soon as those releases happen, he put up a gif of selling on the stock market floor.
He did? I didn't see that.
Yes, he did. Because he, and he said something else, because he's still watching. And that's why I said his return seems imminent. But now, if he knows that, he ain't going back. No. And it just proved that all that Vince cares about is money. And I know people think that, Punk, all he cares about money. That's not all Punk cares about. There are multiple things creatively. He was right when he took his ball and he went home. He was absolutely 100% right, and I will die on that hill. They had, a pot of gold, and they just did not want to listen to the wrestler, and that's why their creative is bad, and that's why all this stuff, and I don't think it's going to happen. I think he's going to show up in AEW if that happens, but if the company is in question, and he knows more than us, he still has people in the business. So why would he put up that gif, It just seems really weird. And again, I don't know if they're selling. I'm just being conspiracy theory Mary, but it just was a lot of wrestlers. And the show and the booking and the creative right now is just absolutely horrendous. It's just not, Raw is unwatchable at some points. It's just background chatter for me. SmackDown, I want to make sure I see SmackDown because they got some interesting stuff going on there. But how long does that last? Yeah.
I don't know. This is, the thing is, we could blame it on the pandemic. or WWE could chalk it up and use that as an excuse. Oh, our creative is. I think that's a bunch of crap. I use that. I wouldn't buy that excuse. I wouldn't accept that excuse. Probably a better way to put it. The reason I wouldn't is because while there are no live fans there to berate the product, which I really miss over the last 15 months that they've been gone from live fans, is the live, like, this sucks and we're going to tell you type of reaction, and I can't wait for that to come back. But they still have sponsors to adhere to. They get most of their revenue from sponsors throughout the show, and they have certain ratings that they have to meet every single show, or they could get cut in their revenue from the sponsors who expect X amount of people to be watching the product during the show. So they have another master to serve beyond the fans that are complaining about the creative sucking, and it's also the sponsors that want to make sure as many people are watching the show as possible, because it does affect the dollar for WWE. So the more people that watch, obviously, the more money they get from the sponsors, and the wheel keeps spinning. So I don't buy their excuse, or anybody's that's telling me, and I'm not saying yours, Mary, but WWE, who would say to us, oh, that's the pandemic era, or as they would say, the Thunderdome era, that, oh, well, that's been going on, and, we don't really, we didn't put our best foot forward. I would say nonsense. I would say it's a bunch of crap, because you still have your really biggest master to serve in sponsors who care about your ratings. So the
other thing is, I don't know if it was it was a SmackDown or Raw or last week's Raw. They were saying that the ratings were like lower than a TNA show.
Yeah.
Or like a TNA, like Bound for Glory or something terrible for TNA. And we all know the ratings TNA was getting at one point.
Mm-hmm.
They did worse than that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, I don't know what's going on. And that's what they're going to say. Oh, it was COVID. We weren't sure. We didn't want to go forward with these storylines because we didn't have a live audience. But is that an excuse? Is that the truth? Everything just seems really weird right now, especially because they do have somebody like AEW, who, again, is not the best product, but, a lot more people are going to that product, and they have good stuff going on. It's believable for the most part. So,
well, that's what makes it great for the talent, and I'll close here, is that what makes it great for the talent is they have another place to go that they can get paid a comparable wage that they were beginning paid in WWE, and in some cases, with Tony Khan's deep pockets, get paid more to be there. I mean, so at least there's a second option, a second viable option, and not just the independents or TNA or Ring of Honor or New Japan. There's actually a place you can go that you could potentially maintain your lifestyle if you are able to go there. It's just a matter of, is there enough space on the roster?
Yeah.
Do you fit in AEW's culture? Is this what it's not just WWE picking up the leftovers, or AEW picking up WWE's leftovers. Yeah. And people always say that to me too. They're like, oh, well, it's just AEW picking up the scraps from WWE.
No.
I would say to them, well, wait a minute. Isn't that what WWE did with, I don't know, a guy named Stone Cold Steve Austin from ECW? The scraps from ECW ended up being the biggest superstar of all time. So it can happen. So,
I mean, he was also on WCW forever too.
Yeah,
and they made a mistake with that. But at the same time, there was another Khan. They just hired that guy Nick Khan at WWE, and that's why everybody's saying these rumors, because he bought like this ridiculous house in Florida or California, and all these financial moves have been happening since this guy came in, and it doesn't look like people like him. I don't know. I know nothing about the guy, but like the bits and pieces that I've saw, everybody's pointing at that. That's why they think that they're going to sell. And I don't know. I don't have an answer for you, but it's not where it was like TNA, who was definitely picking up WWE scraps. Like this is AEW is a bigger promotion. They have the backing. TNA never had that. Right. So you can't even compare the two. This AEW is a viable product, and they have a bright future ahead of them as long as they don't go the WCW route. And I don't think they're going to, because right now WWE is being WCW.
Yeah, no, they are. And I don't know. I feel bad for the talent who, again, people say, oh, they're making millions. Yeah, but I always say to people, well, first of all, they don't have health insurance. That's not covered. Their travel expenses, albeit over the last 15 months, have probably been very limited. They're not covered. And also, it's not how much you make, it's how much you save. And perhaps the lifestyle that they've been living, they still got bills to pay. They still got likely a mortgage to pay for. I mean, so it's all proportional. Like, you could have somebody making $60,000 a year who may have more money than somebody making $600,000 a year because they've saved more. So people look at, it's how much you make. It's not really. So I don't know. I do feel bad as a person to person, like human level. I feel bad for these people that just completely didn't see this coming, and I think it's bad for the culture and really morale of WWE. And I'd be fearful of my job. It looks bad PR. It's not a good look at all.
It looks like a bad look. It was a bad look last year when they did it in the beginning of the pandemic. And then they did it again, and then they did it again. Like, they doubled down the second time this time. Yeah. And it's like, it's a bad look. It's just like you are disposable when it was a lot. I hate saying, oh, well, this person wasn't being used or whatever, but like Braun Strowman, Samoa Joe, Ruby Riott, she was, they just
criminally
started doing,
underused. Yeah.
Criminally underused, started using her again. Now you got poor Liv Morgan, who I think will do just fine. She's turning into a decent wrestler, but now she's got to reinvent her character again. It's just, I don't know. Mm-hmm. That's all I got to say about it. I think Vince needs to go. That's the bottom line before he sells it. I think he needs to step down and let Triple H take the reins, and it's never going to happen. So we're going to be here for a while because he's the crypt keeper.
He's the one that holds the keys, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, Mary, thank you so much for being here. Of course, this is always a fun conversation. I knew it would be, given the circumstances of WWE releasing another round of top-tier talent this time. Just absolutely mind-boggling. And, of course, Monday Night Raw is a disaster. SmackDown, maybe I'll have you on a SmackDown so we're not so bad and so negative, because SmackDown is a much more, plausible show, easier show to watch. But Mary, before you go, of course, let everybody know where they can find you or come at you, as you would say, on Twitter.
Not me, bro.
Yeah.
Not me, bro. You guys can follow me on Twitter at Mare_Bear, BARE, or on Instagram at Popminster11, where sometimes I put up cat videos and my increasingly ridiculous comic pop stuff collection. I just bought another Funko today. I got to be stopped. But yes, you guys can follow me there, and you can come at me and tell me I'm wrong about Vince. I don't think I am, and that's fine. And I didn't curse a lot on the show today.
I'm shocked. Yeah, we had a quota too.
We had a quota, and Matt filled it kind of, but
I'm
too
proud
short
of
myself. Yeah. I tried. I tried to rein it in. I'm probably gonna curse a lot when I get off the podcast.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
But yes, we should talk about head of the table, mafioso Roman Reigns being a mob leader, because that's what he's doing, and it's amazing.
He's an absolute effing boss right now. He's
such a boss. God. It's so good. It's
love
so
it.
Good.
Yeah. No. So we'll definitely do that. We'll be in touch shortly. But congratulations, of course, on graduating, and go have your fun on Saturday, and we'll be in touch shortly.
All right. Have a good night, man. Thanks.
You too. All right. Bye.
Bye.